woke up pissed off today about insurance, and let me tell you why. Because at this point, it's not even about the rent that is keeping us broke. It's about the insurance, and let me show you. So let's look at car insurance. I've had a car since I was 16 years old. From the ages of 16 to 26, I paid $80 a month for car insurance, which was a lot back then. That's 120 times 80, which is $9,600. Okay? From ages 26 to 30, I paid $120 a month for car insurance because some idiot in a Lyft car hit me while I was parked, and insurance said, oh no, it was your job to look for other drivers while I'm parked on the side of the street. That brought my insurance up to $120 a month. Over the course of 48 months, at $120, I paid $5,760. Now, my car insurance from the age of 30 to 35 is $250 a month. 30 to 35, $250. 60 months times $250 is $15,000. $15,000. None of these are new cars. I've never had a new car. This was about a 15-year-old car. This was a little bit newer, which was about an 8-year-old car, and this was a 2014. Never had a new car. Over the course of 20 years, I have paid a grand total of $30,360. $30,000. And you might say, oh, but you probably had a couple accidents. You said you had an accident. You must have used that insurance to get it fixed. Wrong. So in 20 years, I've paid $30,000 with zero return. Okay? I have never used my car insurance in 20 years. This $30,000, this isn't all that I pay. Registration costs, car payment if there is one. I never had a car payment until 30 when the guy hit me and I had to buy a new car because insurance wouldn't pay. 20 years, zero return, $30,000 out of my pocket for nothing. My friends, it is not just about the rent cost. Yeah, the rent is too high, but look at the insurance.
And I guess my message to the American people who are still feeling like things are unaffordable, who are still feeling like things are rough out there is look, we get it, and we hear you, and we know that there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of wood to chop because the Biden administration put us in such a very, very tough spot. And the way that I think about this is it's always helpful to take this from the abstractions to the actual real things that people are worried about. So take, for example, a dozen eggs. I'll never forget this. It was one of the very first, maybe the single first press conference that the president had done since he had started his second term. And some reporter, probably from ABC, yells at him and says, what have you done about the price of eggs? The price of eggs are up 300% over the past 3 years. And it's like, it was January the 23rd. It's like, what do you mean, what have we done in 2 days? It's going to take a little bit of time to fix that problem. And so if you're an American who's just struggling to get by, you work hard, you pay your taxes, you want your kids to have good opportunities, and the price of eggs goes from $2 a dozen to $8 a dozen under the Biden administration, and then under the Trump administration, it goes from $8 a dozen to maybe $6.50 a dozen. Well, to you, that is still a major problem. And even though we've made incredible progress, we understand that there's a lot more work to do. And the thing that I'd ask for the American people is a little bit of patience. This economy was not harmed in 10 months. It took a deliberate 4-year administration that was making life harder for everyday Americans, that was importing foreign workers instead of giving jobs to American workers, that was over-regulating, overtaxing, overspending. They were doing everything wrong. And as much progress as we've made, it's going to take a little bit of time for every American to feel that economic boom, which we really do believe is coming. We believe that we're on the front end of it, but we also recognize that we've got a lot of work to do to undo the damage that Joe Biden did to the American economy. And the last one I'll say, Matt, is let's be honest, it's not just Joe Biden. As much as I think Joe Biden was one of the most disastrous presidents of American history, we had a policy in this country for 40 years of shipping American jobs overseas and hiring foreign workers instead of American workers.
Oh no, a Gen X/boomer is calling my entire generation entitled and lazy and brainwashed. That's so shocking. Look, babe, to be entirely honest, I didn't even read all of your comments because, as you said, my entire generation is just lazy, you know? And I didn't really feel like reading all that shit after you said that we're all just lazy and entitled and brainwashed. But I did read the comment that you left asking me if I even knew what the Great Depression was, so let's talk about that shit real quick. In the comment you left, you were talking about the Great Depression of the 1920s, but actually the worst years of it were in the 1930s. Minimum wage in the 1930s was 25 cents an hour. If you want to adjust that for inflation, we should be making $30.78 minimum per hour today. But guess what? Our federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Still. The average price of a home in the Great Depression was $6,000, and after the Depression hit, it dropped down to $3,900. So if you want to go for the more expensive option and adjust that for inflation, we should be paying $120,277.11 for a house. And if you wanted to go for the less expensive option, which ultimately is unrealistic, we would be paying $86,739.99 for a house present fucking day. Based off those numbers adjusted for inflation, how much do you think a house costs in this day and age? Mind you, the more expensive option adjusted for inflation today would be $120,277. So why in the fuck is the national average 3 times that? Or a hell of a lot more depending on what state you live in. The average price of a car in the Great Depression was $360, but the most expensive option on this list was $665, so let's go with the most expensive option. Adjust that for inflation, and today we should be paying $15,586.68 for a brand new car. Oh, but no, the average price of a car right now is actually $49,000 fucking dollars. Oh, fine, Gen Z can't buy a house ever in their lifetime. What about renting? You should be able to rent, right? So I looked up the average rent in the Great Depression. I forgot to take a picture of the website, but it said $18 a month was their average rent. Adjust that for inflation, and we should be paying $421.90 a month for rent, on average. But no, on average, we're paying anywhere between $1,300 and $2 fucking grand every month. Just a reminder, their minimum wage was 25 cents a month, and adjusted for inflation, we should be making $30.78 an hour, which almost nobody fucking makes. But yeah, Gen Z is just a bunch of whiny fucking crybabies, right? Yeah, we're just entitled and obnoxious and lazy and brainwashed, and oh my god, we don't know shit for shit, and we're just too lazy to make any of our money, and we just need to pull ourselves up by our fucking bootstraps, right? Because it was totally Gen Z that crashed the fucking economy, right? Right? Gen Z are the ones who are the billionaire CEOs who refuse to pay their employees a livable fucking wage, right? That's Gen Z, right? The government is raising our retirement age to 70 years old because that's what Gen Z wanted, right? That was Gen Z. We wanted to do that to ourselves, right? Gen Z can't afford to move out of their parents' house, but you know, that's our fault, right? That's completely on us because we don't make enough money, and that's our fault. Like, it's totally Gen Z's fault that these billionaire fucking corporations don't pay us a livable wage, right? You know, I see people on this app bragging about the fact that they are working 60 to 80 fucking hours a week. And they're calling everyone else lazy because we don't want to spend 80 fucking hours every single week breaking our backs for a corporation that doesn't give a fuck about us. And even after those 60 to 80 hours a week, we still can't afford to fill our cars up with gas or put food on our fucking table. You know, God fucking forbid we want to have a couple streaming services or forms of entertainment. Oh, back in my day, if we couldn't afford cable, we just didn't have it. Well, boo fucking who for you? Oh, well, back in my day, we bought secondhand. So do we. Are you fucking kidding yourself? But no. Gen Z is just lazy and entitled and brainwashed and stupid, and we don't work hard enough, and we just need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, right? It's not like most of us are working 2-3 jobs at a time just to put a roof over our own heads, right? No, we're all lazy. None of us have jobs. We're all unemployed, and we mooch off of our parents, and we expect everything to be handed to us, right? Right? It's not that we don't want to work. It's not that we're lazy. We don't want to break our fucking backs for corporations who won't even pay us a livable wage. I'm sorry that your generation didn't have fucking standards, but we do. So maybe just, zip it. Thanks. And it's absolutely wild for somebody who accuses an entire generation of complaining too much and being crybabies. You complain a lot about us, huh? Oh, because you had some issues back in your day means that Gen Z is not allowed to talk about any of the fucking issues that your generation created for us? Because I promise you, babes, we're not the ones who crashed the fucking economy. We're just living through the consequences of boomers and Gen X's actions. Thank you.
Here's something I've started to notice and I wish I hadn't. Hunger. Not famine, not the kind that happens far away in somebody else's moral geography, but the local ordinary kind. The Canadian kind. People my age, people with degrees and jobs and decent grammar, are telling me they're skipping meals. Not for fitness, not for faith, for money. They can't afford to eat. I can't either some days. The fridge is an echo chamber. You learn to time your hunger to your bank balance. I tell myself I'm intermittent fasting. Really, I'm just broke. I'm lucky in one sense, I have family who help, but even they are strained now. It's become a national sport, this private juggling of who helps whom survive another week. The rich are fine, of course. They're always fine. And the government seems content to treat our collective malnutrition as a kind of character-building exercise. Since COVID, we've all been living in the aftermath of the great economic adjustment. Prices have exploded like popcorn. Wages, like a sulky teenager, refuse to move. Jobs today pay roughly what they did when I finished university, except everything costs double. We've achieved a kind of anti-progress. The more you look, the less you have, and yet, from the marble lips of economists, we're told that to keep life affordable, pay must stay low. Affordable for whom exactly? Walk into a grocery store and you'll see what I mean. Every aisle is a battlefield. You do mental math over cans of beans. You make humiliating decisions in public to put back the bread or the butter. And every month, the price stickers advance like enemy troops. I'm old enough to remember when the price of a tomato wasn't a philosophical question. In Canada, we like to pretend we're immune to this kind of thing, that hunger is an American disease. But the numbers tell a different story. Food banks, Canada reports, usage has nearly doubled since 2019. More and more of the people lining up for those boxes of near-expired pasta are employed. They work full-time, pay taxes, and still can't afford dinner. That's not a recession, that's a system failure. Meanwhile, rent has become an extortion racket with a civic license. The first half of your paycheck goes to your landlord, the second to Hydro, and the remainder to the grocery store. Which takes it with a smirk, of course. Food or heat, that's the new binary. We used to laugh at Victorian novels where the heroine fainted from hunger. Now we just scroll past TikToks of people doing the same thing in Scarborough. South of the border, the pattern repeats with American gusto. During COVID, emergency aid briefly lowered hunger levels to record lows. It was proof that government intervention, for once, worked. And then, as soon as the data looked too good, they stopped doing it. Hunger came roaring back. The logic was classic neoliberalism. The market will sort it out. The market, of course, has no stomach. It digests people just fine. The orthodoxy of the last 40 years, deregulate, privatize, pray, has turned hunger into a management problem. Food is treated like a consumer good, wages like a suggestion, and poverty like a personal failure. Charity picks up the scraps. Food banks were meant to be temporary. They become permanent architecture, monuments to a broken economy. The irony is obscene. In the richest nations on earth, we built a parallel welfare state out of tin cans and volunteer hours. I don't believe lobbying will fix this. The political class is serenely insulated from the problem. Their grocery bills are reimbursed, their meals expensed. They'll tell you they're monitoring the situation, as though hunger were a weather pattern. What are we to do? March on Loblaws? The truth is, no one's coming to save us, so we'll have to feed ourselves, won't we? Literally. That might mean neighborhood food co-ops run by the people who buy from them, selling at cost and refusing to play capitalism's little pricing games. Or public kitchens. One free meal a day, no paperwork, no shame. The infrastructure is already there, schools, churches, community halls. It would cost less than one fighter jet. Or maybe we need a job guarantee that includes growing and cooking food. Pay people to feed people. The economics of it are embarrassingly obvious. I've seen small rebellions that work. In one apartment block I know, 10 tenants pool their grocery money and buy staples in bulk. Rice, beans, lentils. Socialism in a tote bag. It's not glamorous, but it's proof that cooperation still exists beneath the capitalist frost. These acts won't topple the system, but they puncture it, letting a little air back into the room. The phrase food insecurity is bureaucratic cowardice. It means hunger, and hunger is degrading. It turns you into a creature of calculation, timing your next meal like a junkie waiting for a fix. It makes you stupid, fogged, ashamed. And it shouldn't exist here, not in a country that can build condos for ghosts and pipelines to nowhere. This isn't just an economic crisis, it's a moral one. We've mistaken efficiency for virtue. We built an economy that treats survival as a luxury item, and we're supposed to call it progress. But a society that can't feed its workers isn't rich. It's decadent. I don't want a handout. I want a world that adds up, where labor equals livelihood, where you don't have to turn hunger into a personality trait. Maybe the answer isn't waiting for policy, but changing what we value. Cooperation over profit, sustenance over speculation. For now, I keep writing, keep thinking, and yes, sometimes keep skipping dinner. It's hard to concentrate on solutions when your stomach's growling, but perhaps that sound is also a kind of protest. The body reminding the system that it still exists.